Hello, we are back in the chocolate yurt, which can mean only one thing. It's time again to talk about chocolate. As always, I'm with my co-host Andrew Nason.
Hi, Ed.
In the past episodes, I've been somewhat left in the dark as we sort of begin this journey to discovering what really good chocolate truly means. This episode, I've been slightly allowed to know what we're going to talk about today. And I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about fermentation.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, Ed, if we're going to discover beautiful chocolate, we need to know about fermentation. And not as some sort of random concept. We need to know the detail.
Yeah.
Because the detail brings out the flavour.
The nuts and bolts of this process. I think when I heard the topic was fermentation, and I never would have claimed to be a scientist, even at school, I slightly went, oh, that's going to be nerdy and boring. I've been poring over papers, academic papers and articles and all this stuff. This world, the world of sort of microbacteria and microfungus that actually, essentially, as you said before in previous episodes, cook the cacao pods, it's utterly fascinating and I can't wait to discuss it at some length on this episode.
Yeah.
Before we do start, it's we record these things in beautiful West London, and it's a slightly rainy day. So hopefully our brilliant editors will be able to ensure the sound is great. But if you do hear the sound of rain, we do apologise. Hopefully it'll be like sort of ASMR experience. But yeah, that is what you're hearing if that comes across. But anyway.
So Ed, I want to start off by recognising that you like Mars bars and Snickers bars, correct?
We know that.
We know that.
Feel like it's hammered home.
Now can we establish that the Mars bar actually may have been made on Mars?
That's a leap. I'm going to let you land, as they say. I'm going to let you land on this one before I say obviously not no.
So fermentation is a core of making good chocolate.
Yes.
And the key to fermentation is an alien species that may be an interplanetary traveller. It may have come from out of space.
It's great.
That's yeast. So your Mars bar could have been made on Mars.
Or at least by Martians, I guess.
By Martians. I mean, by an alien species.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, this is not... We pool our research on air as opposed to sort of doing it together. And once again, I've got to say, the Martian origins of yeast is not something I can confirm or deny.
But are you telling me, Ed, that you haven't heard of Panspermia? Panspermia.
It's a family podcast,
I'm going to get this wrong. Have you heard of the concept of Panspermia?
No.
Okay. So this is the concept that our civilization, and we mean yeast, was an interplanetary traveller. It's an alien species that landed in cosmic dust or a meteor, and it was caught in the water or the rocks and landed on our planet. And when you look at the yeast that's involved in the fermentation of chocolate, it fits the idea that actually it's an alien species.
I want to ask why it's called Panspermia. I'm not going to do that. What I would say is looking at bacteria and hearing about how it behaves, it is weird. It is alien. And it looks alien as well. I mean, some of it looks like sort of peas and spaghetti. Some of it looks like tiny little what's-it. But yeah, essentially, it definitely is a sort of alien process when you read about these scientists who've been able to sort of monitor it. For those who don't know, just very briefly, when we're talking about fermentation, it's obviously not just cacao that undergoes fermentation, cheese, wine, a lot of what we've bread. You mentioned yeast. A lot of the stuff that we enjoy is made through fermentation, and very simply, essentially, it is leaving some sort of matter, particularly sort of natural matter. So in this case, it's the cacao pods, but in the case of wine, it's grapes. And essentially, you are allowing certain types of microbes being very, very, very small bacteria and fungus, to essentially, well, for want of a better word, eat it really,
Eat it.
and
Exactly right.
sort of turn it into something
But
different.
I'm going to go further, Ed.
Good.
I think there's an argument to say that you're controlled by these alien species.
You say there's an argument to be made. Are you making this
I'm
up?
making the
Good.
argument. Ed,
Glad we're on the
I
same
have
page.
seen you
Me? Yes.
drinking beer.
True. I can't deny it. He has seen
And
that.
that is basically alien yeast poo, isn't it? Alcohol is the poo of the yeast.
Sort of.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but
And I think you can make a case, and I believe it's called the Yeast Paradox of civilization,
sure.
that yeast control mankind.
Yeah. I mean, when we talked about those things there, I mean, beer, wine, chocolate, bread.
All the staples of civilization.
Yeah. I mean, look at Catholicism. I mean,
yes,
it's right there.
Are there to propagate yeast, not necessarily humans.
So we are a sort of carrier for yeast, really.
We are the slaves to yeast. We go our lives creating perfect environments, sugary, warm environments for yeast, be it in the wine, the chocolate, the bread. You know, and many people have dedicated their lives, their industries, all dedicated to propagating these alien species. Yeah. And I've seen you eat bread. I've
True.
seen you drink beer.
True.
And it could be that you're just a slave to these alien bugs.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a happy sort of. I see.
Yes, that's exactly right. The aliens have made it. But I
see it more as a sort of symbiosis, a sort of. It's a sort of friends with benefits type relationship.
But who controls who? Well, who is slaving away to make this environment of sugary, warm?
Oh well, I mean, you're right. I do drink beer. I very rarely brew it myself. I mean,
in a pub when you're nice and warm and you're eating sugary snacks. You know, you are the perfect example of the yeast controlling the world.
Yeah, I mean, but I think in a way I also sort of control yeast as well. I mean, I sort of again I don't want to claim that I brew beer. I have once, but not often. I get yeast to make stuff that I like. It makes nice bread, it makes nice beer, and hopefully it's gonna
make nice chocolate.
Exactly.
So I think we should get on with making, and we're going to do this live on air. And I think this is a first. I don't know that anybody has fermented chocolate.
I was told in my journalism course, I was told never ever claim to be doing the first of something because someone else will have done it before you. Whatever. I think this is the first time live on air to, I guess, non-scientists and non-chocolatiers have tried to ferment cacao as the early fermenters would have done it, which is essentially getting cacao pods, chopping them open, leaving them somewhere quite warm, and seeing what happens. Now,
yes, exactly. And what we're going to do is we're going to see that yeast acting, and this is the magic stuff in chocolate. This is where the flavor comes. This is why you love that Snickers bar.
Yeah.
Because the flavor comes first from the fruit, and we're going to taste it again, the fruit. But it's then two actions that we've talked about before, but we're going to do now live. The first action is, let's call it a yeast rave, a party. They go absolutely crazy on this sugary, fruity stuff, and they have an absolute rave.
Again, it isn't, of course, just yeast. It's a broad spectrum of bacteria and fungus are involved.
Yes, I think the first one, and we're going to get into this because it matters. And, you know, when we talk about it as chocolatiers, we often say it's fermented. But the process is complex.
Yeah.
And it matters to the flavor. And the first one is our favorite sugar beer fungus, which is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. The Latins among us will forgive me for
Latins?
that. Yeah. The Romans.
There aren't that many of those left, luckily.
So
well, not luckily.
Is the one that starts off the party and starts munching away on this sugar. And of course they poo. And their poo is the alcohol. And you can have chocolate alcohol, right? And then the bacteria takes the alcohol and turns it into acetic acid. And that's where we start getting all these complex flavors.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. I think the analogy of a rave is something that I sort of was thinking about a lot. I see it more as like a tango because, or a ballroom dance, because what you basically need pairs and combination of fungus and bacteria to essentially achieve a very, very complicated process. And what's different with cacao than wine is with wine, often you'll have a winemaker will add microbes. They'll be quite controlled. With cacao, it's pretty anarchist, actually. It's very difficult to add a chosen microbe or a chosen fungus. It's sort of just what's there. So
that's exactly right.
So even with really good cacao, what I was reading about was it's bacteria from maybe the soil of the region it's from, stuff like that. It's stuffed in the air, but also it's bacteria from the hands of the people picking it up. It's bacteria from the box it's going in, and the same with fungus.
And that's right. That's why Venezuelan chocolate will taste different to
Exactly
African chocolate, because the bugs are different.
Yeah, and then even sort of batch by batch. So you're right. You'll have radical differences between those two. Then even batch by batch of the Venezuelan, you'll have subtle differences because you have. It's never going to be the exact same bacteria every single time.
Absolutely right. And the process of fermentation, whether it's box fermentation or open fermentation, really affects the flavor. And it is super, super important. And really it's the difference between turning a kind of low quality junk like chocolate or a beautiful Petrus wine or something. And it's the length of time as well, of course, that it is fermented, because if you're trying to save money, you're going to do it a short period and you're not going to get the complex flavors.
Sure.
So the whole process is core to chocolate, and it's one that clearly most people don't recognize or understand. And furthermore, you're absolutely right. It's anybody that says it's a simple process. Chocolate is the most complex fermentation in the world. There's nothing more complex because it's kind of wave after wave. It's the yeast, then it's the bacteria, and then it's lactic acid. It's there's even something called chlamydia in there, which you don't really want to know a lot of these.
I mean.
And I will say there is another one that rather shocked me. It's called Pastor's anus. So you don't really want to dig too deeply into these bugs.
I mean, they are all. I mean, the names of these things might make them sound. That essentially how it works, and not to sort of go into too much detail.
Yeah, let's not go into Pastor's anus again.
Yeah, exactly. But essentially, you have sort of types of fungus and types of bacteria which are pretty much always present. But there are hundreds of individual ones in those sort of categories that it can be. So, which is why you have the huge variety of different chocolate.
Yes. And that's why chocolate is the most complex and the most flavorful. Because what we've done is we've fermented it. So we've had the sort of this rave by the yeast, but we also then roast it. So we get a double processing, and that's where all the flavors come out. So are we gonna start this rave?
Yeah, well, what we have here is we have our very own fermentation station in front of us. You should see two beautiful cacao pods. One is slightly darker than the other one. We think it's maybe a slightly older pod, or it's.
Yes, of course they come from different trees and different genomes and probably different countries. And we know that cocoa pods have a kaleidoscope of colours. They're beautiful, rainbow of colours. So you get a huge amount of variation in the trees themselves, and now we're going to go and start playing with that fermentation.
Yeah, we're gonna try and ferment these cacao pods. What I will add, having sort of been on the chocolate fermentation Reddit, is in the sort of age of science and sort of general nerdiness. It seems it can be quite difficult to ferment just on your own. It's now sort of you need all these technology and machines to monitor things, and you need sort of precise quantities. Our philosophy here is we are, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going back to the early fermenters, the trial and errorist.
But Eddie, I mean, you raise a very important point, and this is one of the problems, is that some of the larger companies can afford the technology and the process and the box turning fermentation, and they'll have temperature monitors, etc. A lot of chocolate is fermented out in jungles by native or local people, and they don't have that technology. They don't necessarily know the best process of fermentation, and there's a big education effort to teach them. But don't forget, you're out in the middle of nowhere, let's say the Solomon Islands, and you've got you're putting it in, the bugs are there, the cats, the chickens walking over it. This is this is where the flavour comes from.
We're probably not gonna have any chickens walking over our fermentation station. This is going to take how many days, do you reckon?
Well, obviously the sort of minimum I'd say is the 4-day, and the better, higher quality chocolate might even go to a 6-day.
So this is probably going to be a sort of two-parter, we reckon, because we're going to set it up now, and then we're going to come back and discover what's happened. I reckon we should, without further ado, I reckon we should get into these.
We should crack in.
Cacao pods.
And we've got to try and do this without sort of cutting oneself.
Yeah, do be careful.
Yeah, because, and I think this is, again, a very relevant part of the story, because I don't want to upset you, but Snickers bars do not grow on trees.
No, that is how it starts.
So you have to get this cocoa pod off the tree, and that's non-trivial. There's no machine that will do it, it's hand. And this is one of the reasons why chocolate is expensive, because everything has to be done by hand. And you have to crack open these pods, and then, a machete's going to do this.
Not easy, do be careful.
It's not easy. And hopefully you'll see...
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, look at that.
The beans. And I think we should just try one again, the fresh, that's a fresh cocoa. I'm getting the smell. I mean, it's beautiful smell. Let's just taste that. So this is
you don't bite into it.
Oh.
It's very yummy.
Lovely, lychee, banana-y, beautiful flavour. Now this is obviously a sterile environment. So we're going to put it, well, do you want to cut yours?
I'll cut mine open,
You may try a different
I'm
approach,
going to go.
but I'm enjoying sucking on this lozenge. You're going to go for half.
I find slightly
That's
better.
probably a more intelligent way of doing it. Oh, there's a bit of mould in there already. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Maybe
Got
we're
a
not
little
going to
bit
ferment. So you would immediately, we're not going to ferment that one, obviously, because it started to mould.
Yeah.
But again, it shows you've got to get these things fresh to the fermentation. So let's move to our fermentation box, which happens to be here. And what we've done is we've lined it with banana leaves, which is very typical. Okay, so we're going to put it in.
Cool.
And put these in our banana leaves. You see it's kind of slimy and sticky and not super attractive at this point. So we're going to leave it in our fermentation tank, and we're going to let nature do its wonderful work, and we're going to let the microbes start partying. And of course, what we're hoping to see,
yes,
if we take...
we have here some basically, here's some we made, we didn't make these earlier, but these are fermented and roasted cacao pods. So these will be ready to crush down and make into chocolate. Yeah. And they look completely different. I mean, it's really amazing. Yeah, if we grab this old one here, if you have a look, I mean, it's sort of white with something slimy. And this is almost sort of like a peanut. It's sort of dark and very hard. And hopefully we're going to get something a bit like that. I mean, again, it's just slightly sort of...
amateur night.
Yeah, we don't really have the technology to really be precise with this sort of stuff. But in terms of what's going to happen or at least what I hope is going to happen over the next week, is what you're going to find is the fungus and the bacteria, as we mentioned, they're going to, in that dance, work together to essentially balance the acid levels and increase the temperature. So the outside of the sort of pulpy bits, which are really important in the process, those are super, super, super acidic right now, which you can sort of taste. They're very tangy.
Yeah.
That's going to come right down. So that's going to become less acidic. Whereas within the bean, because it'll sort of enter into the bean and move all around, the levels of acid in the bean they'll increase. So essentially, you're going to have a more acidic center and a less acidic pulp on the outside.
Yeah, and what you're hoping for is that temperature, because obviously what we have here is a baby cacao tree, right? There's a little tree in here with all the elements of, the genus, as it were. And what the temperature and the fermentation will do, they'll first kill the baby tree.
Oh.
And then they'll start working on the sugars and eating those, turning into alcohol, and then turning into acetic acid. And of course, that process uses the sugar in the fruit and starts the process of bringing out the flavors and eliminating the sort of bitter and toxic flavors. So this munching, this yeast rave party, is really the essence to fine chocolate.
What's really interesting, I think why I'm glad we're doing it in the sort of almost slapdash way we are, is what we're illustrating here is exactly how sort of the diversity and like the randomness really of the bacteria used. So there will be in our chocolate, that will use bacteria from Andrew and my hands. It'll taken it from the room. It'll taken it from the box it's in. It'll taken it from the leaves it's under. And then we're probably going to take it to a warmer place. Probably you want it between sort of 25 probably or 27 and 35 degrees.
Yeah.
So we're going to move it after the episode, I think. And you'll get bacteria from there. But what's interesting is in this box now, if we were to do this next year as well, all those same bacteria would keep coming back. So they're like the regulars at the bar. Whereas fungus, apparently, different. Fungus is sort of away with the fairies. It'll come, it'll go. It's almost impossible to monitor which fungus you get batch after batch. Although in the last year, and this is very, very new technology, this isn't, no chocolate our listeners are eating at home will have had this process done to it yet, because it's just, I mean, honestly, this paper was published in sort of August 2024. Scientists from the University of Nottingham have managed to isolate basically precise fungus and bacteria, the ones that they think are sort of the absolute primo chefs. Your Marco Pierre White's chef.
Yeah, and the yeast is the Marco Pierre White, isn't it? It's the top chef. It's the number one chocolatier. But it's about which precise form of that. Because as we mentioned, these are sort of terms that are used to describe a huge range of millions of types of bacteria. And what they're able to do now is isolate what those are. We, on the other hand, have no ability to do that. Our one is going to be a free-for-all. Yes. Ours is a bit random. But we know that the main one, the sugar beer fungus, is the kind of king of
we want to get him in there, definitely. But like also, I think there is an excitement there. There is, and I think that's why chocolates, there's almost a sort of, it's slightly fairer, it's more democratic. With something like wine, you sort of have that reputation.
But chocolate is a lot more complex. It's got many more flavors than wine. And I think the reason is that the fermentation, as you said, happens in waves. Yeah. You know, we have the wave of the yeast, then we have the bacteria, then we have fungus. It's a very, very complex process. Probably the most complex fermentation. There is no mother, as far as I know, like a sourdough. That doesn't exist. No, exactly. Because we're basically taking wild jungle fungus and bacteria, and that's what works on
There's no, you don't. You're right with bread. You add it yourself. With chocolate or with cacao, you just sort of let it do its thing.
You let nature do its thing.
And what science are trying to do now, which I think is exciting, maybe a little bit boring, is basically using a process called something like shotgun Oxford, basically selection or something mad. It's a mad process that they're able to actually literally go in and select individual sort of tiny microorganisms.
And I want you to cast your mind back to the Olmec, Aztec, Mayan women that would have done this. And it's an extraordinary discovery, isn't it? To know that you had to leave your cacao beans out to ferment for 4 to 5 days. You've then got to know that you've got to roast them. You've then got to know that you've got to use a metate to grind them. This was a complex food discovery, and they discovered it thousands of years ago. And that is a complex sequence to put together.
And this will not work every time. A lot of the time you try this, we have our fingers crossed that it won't happen to us.
Well, we've got mold here. This is not, the fungus that we would want, and that's exactly right. So the speed to the market is very, very important for these farmers. Cool. We've got our fermenting cacao.
Fermentation station.
And we're going to hope that it's going to turn into beautiful chocolate, but it's early days. And so there's our chocolate fermenting. And, Ed, this was an important step in trying to realize how complex that Snickers bar actually is.
And also, I mean, excitingly, I mean, we're going to have to wait a week and we'll be sort of checking on it every day and videoing exactly what it's going to do. But I'm jealous of our listeners because for them, when I click my fingers, it's going to be a week later and we hopefully will have brilliant chocolate. So without further ado,